and I leave you the stage.
All right, as we say in South Africa, how's it going, everyone? Are you all good? You all right? Good to hear that. My name's James Preston. I'm going to be the host of this panel. I'm very excited to chat with you all this morning. I am marketing and communications at Zeitgeist, the prediction markets protocol on Polkadot. And we have a lot of experience with this panel up here. We have a lot of relationships with you. Some of you have invested in our project. And I think a key takeaway I want for this panel is for those that are watching the live stream, those that are here, to go away going, if I was starting a project, what would the VCs want to hear in my pitch? What should I be looking at? What should I be focusing on? So that's going to be a key takeaway for me. Before we get into all those nuts and bolts, what I'd like to do is just ask for you each to share with us the name of your firm and your two favorite investments. Doesn't have to be your biggest investments. Your two favorite no, okay. Maybe we're getting a little, we might show a bit of favoritism to the others. Let's go with your two most famous investments and why you think they became so successful. Let's start with the end on that side. Christoph, what about you?
Well, Zeitgeist, of course, is our favorite investment. Couldn't be more happy. Maybe the token price should be a little bit higher, then we would be even more happy. No, so I think it's, we don't have really a favorite investment. I mean, I always like to say I think the only goal you have as a VC is to make money, and so we invest in projects where we think they can money for our investors. So that's the goal.
Sagar, yourself?
I think you gave the very honest answer. So my name is Sagar. I'm from Blockchain Founders Capital. So as he mentioned, like we are in money-making business, right? So at the end, it's but for us, very important is like what kind of pain point or what is the problem the founders are solving. So we are not sort of like a Web3 fund, but like we focus on Web 2.5, where we want to like, no one sells nowadays like internet, right? No one writes their door like, hey, we are internet startup, right? They are all focusing on explaining like what pain points they are solving. So we focus on this kind of like, though we are like investing only in blockchain-based startups, but for us very important is that what pain point, what problems you are solving, and how you are going to solve. Is market ready for that problem? Do we need that solution? And I mean, as an investor, you basically invest as per your fund size. You do like 20, 30, or 40 investment, but the reality is also like even the Y Combinator invest in 100 startups, and only they have the like 7% rate to hitting the unicorn. So like out of 100, only 7 startups hit the unicorn status. So like then you are the world's top investor, right? So when you invest, of course, when you are investing into any startup, that means you are already convinced about them, but that doesn't mean it's gonna work. So we invested in all the startups. They all are my favorite, but a couple of them like solving the creator economy problem called Beats and Talenteer. So they are like removing the all middleware congested music industry by bringing the like artists and fans together, right, by using blockchain. Though they never write at the door like we are a Web3 or crypto startup, right? So this is what our focus is. One of our early investment was Venly, like a wallet provider for gaming infrastructure. So like think about like any gaming company would like to offer their players tomorrow, like suddenly like, okay, I have like 5 million users and I want to give each of the users like wallet. The gaming company don't have time, or they will not hire like a whole massive team, you know, and build like from scratch. So they go to Venly and they're like, okay guys, we need 5 million wallet. We want to integrate your API and your infrastructure, and please give us the price. So like Venly is like a 5 million user. We invested in 2020. So yeah, they are solving like pain point problem of the gaming industry by using blockchain. So basically they are like infra provider. I can keep going and go, but yeah, I think we are in limit of time, so I will leave it here.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Sagar. And for those that don't know about Sagar, primary focus is the Ethereum ecosystem. If I stand corrected, but I know that you're also going to be putting on ETHCC in Munich. Is that correct?
Yeah, so like I'm hosting the hackathon at Technical University of Munich. It's ETH Munich, but everyone is invited. The goal is that, so our fund is not focusing on only on Ethereum ecosystem. We are like multi-chain. By the way, like fully disclosure, I also hold Polkadot and Kusama. So I'm also quite deep into like a blockchain space. But like when it comes to fund, you need to justify to your LPs because they give you money to make more money, right? As he mentioned. So the goal of the ETH Munich is that the Technical University of Munich is one of the best university in whole Europe when it comes to computer science and data science and IT, and now like in AI bubble, they are leading the race. But let's see how many startups comes out of it. But my goal is that if you teach the student, right, you give them the tech, they are like a new generation of developer. So it's easy to mold them. Like doing some exercise, like start learning ski at the age of 40, and when you are a 10-year-old and you start learning ski, right? So the 10-year-old will add up very faster. So my goal is that if 100 or 150 students will come out and will build on top of blockchain, and if they come out of like a next generation of startup which is solving the real life problem, then I think my whole energy will be worth invested. And hackathon is like completely non-profit. I'm not gonna take any cuts. It's under the NGO entity of the German e.V., it's like EV. And yeah, so if you are around next month, around 11, 12, 13th August, please come to Munich and yeah, let's build something together.
Wonderful, man. Looking forward to that. Now, Max, obviously we've just heard from yourself. I'm not sure if Harbour Industrial does private investment into actual projects, or is it primarily running validators and actually facilitating investment into various validators? Tell us a little bit about Harbour Industrial.
Yeah, it's not so much about the validators, it's more about the auctions, right, that I talked about. So yeah, the trade-off is like DOT support, like we're locking up our DOT and we get like some project tokens in return, right? That's like, you know, the well-known crowd loan model, and we just like professionalize it a little bit, I guess, and like work directly. We speak directly with the projects. I think that's you know, that's really our approach, right? Investors come in DOT, right? And our benchmark is DOT, right? So we don't care so much about like our dollar performance. I mean, obviously that's important, but you're in the Polkadot ecosystem. So our main benchmark is DOT, not the dollar, right? But you asked about like which investments, right? So I also don't want to like, you know, single out like one or two particular projects. All the projects that we invested in are parachains, right? We currently are invested in like about 15 different, since I guess many of you guys to single anyone out. But in terms of like what we're looking for from the project in order to support them. So we're still very much thinking about this in terms of the infrastructure narrative, right? So not necessarily, and there are different views, right? Like some people say like, oh, we just need like we just want to invest somewhere where the next like billion users can be onboarded, right? It's not really our approach to think this way. We're more thinking like what kind of infrastructure will the apps that support the next billion users need, right? So it is still very much like an infrastructure play. And I think, you know, most of the parachains that are currently coming online can in one way or another be considered infrastructure, right? And since Polkadot makes it interoperable, that's beautiful. You know, you need roads and bridges and power plants and sewage treatment plants, right? All of these things to have like a great city, right? And this is kind of what we're investing in, right? This is what we like. If it's like a solid infrastructure play, right? It's relatively easy for us to see like what kind of things are needed, right? It's harder to predict what is like the killer app, like everyone's looking for the next killer app. It's much easier to like predict what kind of infrastructure the next killer app is going to be built on, and that's really like what we like to invest in.
Excellent, man. Yeah, I think that's key, is building the foundational layers now for the user adoption to come. Joanna, I know you were formerly at DFG, you were formerly CIO at DFG, now have founded Jsquare. Give us a short intro to Jsquare and some of your most successful investments, if any.
Sure, thanks. So hello everybody, this is Joanna Liang, the CEO and co-founder of Jsquare. Basically, we are a tech-driven investment firm. I co-founded this Jsquare group with James at early 2021. And so because we are basically self-funded and we don't have any outside LPs, so the investment strategy is pretty flexible. And so far we have invested in over 60 projects in total, and the AUM we are managing is around $150 million. In terms of the most successful projects that we have invested, that's a very interesting question, because starting from my career in crypto, I have invested 200 projects in total so far, and 90 projects have already exited with, and over 95% has generated great returns. But if I recall the best investments, or if I have to define it, I think CoinList and FV Bank would be the ones that I think are very important, especially in the bear market. As we all know that we undergo a very hard period during the past few months because of the bank crisis or something like this, and Signature and Silvergate just collapsed. But our portfolio project, FV Bank, and they are based in Puerto Rico, and their business just survived, and they did very well, and they're opening accounts for all the crypto companies in our industry, and so they're providing the very professional financial services, and this is something that I think is very important. And in terms of the application level, there is one project called Jensen, which we invested last year. It's also a parachain in Polkadot ecosystem. So they are doing the AI big language training model, and they are recently led by A16Z. I think this is something that I'm pretty excited about, because I'm pretty excited about the future of AI, the potential combination of AI and Web3 technology. Yeah, so this is basically my...
I mean, that is some summary. That's very impressive, Joanna. And I mean,
thank you.
200 investments, 90 exits already is remarkable. So I think there's a lot for us to draw from in the next, we've got now half an hour, so we really want to get in as much as we can. James, we'll end with you. Great name, by the way.
Thank you.
Everyone knows you because of your Twitter activity, but maybe not so much about how much work you put into digital finance group. You guys have made some big investments. Which ones have been the most standout for you?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Thank you about the name. So this is James, a founder and CEO of DFG. So I think if you want me to highlight really two investment, everyone can define what is a successful investment, right? But if you want me to highlight two names, it will be Bitcoin and Polkadot. So it's very easy logic. So Bitcoin is where everything starts. This is a fact. This is irreversible. Without buying Bitcoin, for me, 9 years ago, there's nothing happened in DFG. Nothing happened to me. So that's really important. And to me, I believe that's also important to everyone in the industry. The next thing is Polkadot. So Polkadot gave me actually the biggest return in my whole investment career. And I hope, Bitcoin is where everything starts. Polkadot is where everything ends. So it is really a technology, which is fantastic. Everyone's talking about the end game, right? SN 2.0, whatever that is. But I believe Polkadot is probably kind of the end game for the crypto industry. So I guess, but it needs like everyone in the community to work harder to kind of achieve that goal. So that is the reason why I think these are the really the two important investments from my side.
Wow, short and sweet, and so simple. Bitcoin and Polkadot. I think a lot of people would agree with that. James, I'm going to stay with you for a second and touch on your Twitter game. It interests me, of course, being in communications. And your Twitter game is pretty impressive when you compare it to other VCs across the spectrum. I'm talking just standard tech startups, talking Web 2 and Web 3. You really have done well in growing your Twitter presence. Is that a strategic thing, or do you just naturally love the platform and love to communicate via the platform? Are you thinking about what you're going to put out? Do you have a schedule ahead? Do you have someone running your Twitter account, or is it all you on the fly?
Yes, thank you for asking that. It's actually something I always want to talk, but nobody asking. So I guess, the first to answer your question is actually everything is managed by myself. So our marketing team, actually, both DFG and Jsquare have marketing team, but they work on our official account, and they work on other stuff like managing like offline meetups and, all kind of like maybe Twitter space and online marketing stuff. But my personal account, I manage it by myself. So I usually, spending probably at least like 2-3 times like a day to check my Twitter for all the information. So first I want to learn, there's a couple of ways I can get information, right? First is I'm talking to all the partners, portfolios, everyone in the industry, so I can get the newest information. This is really important because the crypto trend shifts too quickly. So I need to know what is everyone's focus on, what is everyone doing right now. So this is one way. The other way is more like public information. So instead of like reading all the newspapers, media, whatever, I prefer to use Twitter because it's really high efficiency. So I can probably spend in probably 10-15 minutes to browse everyone's like ideas or all the news. It's really quick and important. So that's really one of the main reasons I use Twitter. And the second, beyond like getting all this information, I want to share what I'm thinking about the industry. So I always like kind of tweet probably like once a day or something like that, and tell everyone what I'm thinking about, what I'm doing, and leave some open questions to the public and interact with people. So I think this is also a good way for us to communicate and talk. And I don't think I waste a lot of time on that. Actually, the time I spend on that is definitely worth it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a waste at all. It's actually valuable time spent. It's research, in essence. So yeah, man, great job. Okay, so to the rest of the panel, let's throw out some key insights from VCs. First question I have for you, and I'll start at the end, so we'll come back around, kind of do a nice loop, because I know what it's like. I've been on many panels on your end, and you sort of go around, and then the panelist tries to sort of just pick and choose. I think it might be easier to keep the loop going. So we'll start with Christoph, but everyone, if you can answer, key value add services. And this was a suggested question that came up from Max. I really appreciated this. What are key value add services that you guys help your investments with beyond the capital contribution? Christoph.
I think in the last couple of months, it was like being the therapist. So that was like the most important role. It's I think it was super tough for the founders over the last couple of months, and I think a lot of the founders learned the lesson that money is not abundant, that the burn rate has to get down, otherwise you not survive. The issue is that we're one of the bigger VCs in the space. We put a lot of money into the Polkadot ecosystem, not exclusively, but mainly. And kind of the thing is, there's no money going around. And we had this huge discussion last night with the open government from a team who, tried to get funding outside, then tried to do it on the treasury. And I think it's what needs to be done, and I think it's, you need to bring mainstream into the ecosystem. It's like, otherwise everyone is going to run out of money. Because first of all, what we're trying to do is, okay, get the burn rate down and show us where you get your revenues, because you can live from your revenues. Yeah, to think, okay, I built the technology for the next 2 years, it's not going to happen because you're going to run out of money. Because who's going to do follow-up investments? Yeah, who are the next VCs? Where's the A16Z of the Polkadot ecosystem? I think it's, and if this doesn't happen, and that's why I think it's, you need to tell the guys, look, there's no more money. It's like, we're not your piggy bank where you say, okay, shit, we ran out of money, can you give us another $1 million? So, because we are responsible for our investors, and in the end, we're in the money-making business. That's what counts, yeah? And I think that's why you need to bring users. I mean, look at all the conferences. They're always the same people. You don't bring in new people. You need, we have our own conference in Switzerland. What we try to do is bring like old money and new money together, because if you don't teach the guys, all the asset managers, the pension funds, insurance companies who sit on a gigantic pile of money but would never touch that at the moment, if you don't teach and educate them, the space will have problems. Yeah? So you need to bring that in. Sorry, it was not exactly answering your question, but that's what we...
No, it was helpful. I think everything you've said is 100% spot on. I couldn't agree more. Sagar.
Yeah, I mean, he very well like captured 90% what I wanted to say, but...
He's good.
Yeah, he's good, yeah. That's true. And no, I mean, I would like to go a little bit back where last 2 years have minted so many VCs, right? So you meet on the road, and as you mentioned, like the people are same, and every second guy is now like an investor, right? And the core value of venture capital is on top of capital, you should, so when everything is green, the good life, and I can literally imagine like if it would be the bull market, the hall would be full, and I would not be sitting here, right? So the thing is that when the shit hits the fan, excuse me for my language, but like, then the real portfolio work starts. And if you choose randomly your investors, they're not going to help you. They just have like a bunch of people who got lucky, they have the capital, and they are on cap table. So the actual venture capital work starts when the founders start facing actual problems, like with hiring, with capital. You have to cut down your burn rate. You are not getting enough leads from the B2B or B2C sides. The people are not responding you, right? There comes the venture capital where you push your network, because venture capital is like, we are doing 24/7 this work. You have to build your network, and network effect is very huge. Because if you don't know who is who in the whole ecosystem, then your startup might not have that benefit. So for any founder sitting here, please choose wisely who you want to go in bed with. So try to find the right investor and diversify as much as possible your cap table, because these are the people who are going to help you in the bad times. So do some due diligence, just don't accept their money, like just don't try to spread and pray, right? Like, okay, we're just gonna take the money and then we'll figure out later. No, that's not the right mentality.
But my question is, can you really choose who your investors are at the moment?
At the moment, no, but if you are building something, and that's also leads me to the point of like the traditional venture capital is not even into our industry at the moment. I mean, even 16s is also like, they just spread and pray. Like, I'm not sure like how much they are, nothing against them, but like I'm not sure how much they are doing the portfolio work in the Web3 side. They were just like chasing the hype, like all my tier 1 VCs. Like for example, I'm fundraising for my fund. When I go to the traditional VCs, the time you tell them like you are working in blockchain, they just go away. This is the reputation we have managed to create for our industry. So fast forward, I think introduction with the potential your clients. We do like lots of personality tests where we help the founders in terms of hiring, because you don't want to hire an introvert person as your sales manager. So we have this in-house tooling which Ray Dalio introduced long ago, like 16 traits of personalities, which gives us lots of traits like what is the symptoms or like what is the behavior model the person is going to have. Because if you're hiring a sales manager, you need to make sure that guy is extrovert and he don't get tired of selling it, because otherwise you hire the introvert person, then he will not able to sell it. So it's all about sales. And on terms of like also raising the next capital round, so you need to have like a deep pocket VC. Of course, they're not gonna give you lots of capital, but they are gonna bring other people on board. And you need to find the investor who have like another 50 VCs contacts. So because it's at the end, it's all about people's business. We are investing in people, not on idea, right? Because people can change the idea, but idea cannot change the people. So like we cannot change the founder in the middle of the turmoil, like, okay, you fire and we're gonna put the new founder. It happens after series A, B, C, like a growth stage startups. In early stage startups, you need to make sure that you have the right person who is the leader. So I always say like, it's all about the pilot. It's not about the jet. It doesn't matter how old or new is the jet, but if the pilot is very well trained, then he can take you to the other side of the part, right? So yeah, I think value proposition is very important, where like you help them with the tech side, tech stack. Some of the VCs are like, for us, like our strength is like we are very well connected in the DACH ecosystem, like German-speaking countries, where from lawyers to government bodies to the B2B to like corporates, we have like a strong connection. So we open our books for the founders. So whenever they need the introduction, whenever they want to go to the next funding round, we make sure that we at least bring them like at least 5 to 10 or 20 leads, so they can do the business. I personally look into lots of competition analysis where founders need to do the pricing accurately, because we are in the money-making business, so there is like a competition is always neck to neck, where you need to make sure that the other person who is doing the tender, for example, for gaming industry or for the analytic estimation for the corporates, you want to make sure that your competitors are not giving the price quotation little bit slighter, cheaper than you are offering. So that's what we provide, and yeah.
Max, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, there are different ways to approach this question, right? How can you add more value? And I certainly agree with things that have been said before, but I probably, as you can guess from my presentation I held before, when I approach it like in a slightly different way, and that is the idea of voting support, right? I think this is something that is currently not really fully fleshed out yet, and but I think it's something that's going to be increasingly important in the future, particularly in the Polkadot ecosystem, arguably in other crypto ecosystems as well. But I mean, this is a Polkadot event, and we all like understand and engage in open gov, so that's why I think it's worth like thinking about this a little bit more from that angle, right? Like, how can a VC who invests in a Polkadot-based project actually support them in the long term, right? So, and again, this is nothing unique to the crypto space, right? It's think of any other industry, let's say pharmaceuticals, for example, right? Let's say a VC invests in a like drug company, like a pharmaceutical company, to develop a new drug. Okay, great, right? So first, to give them money, they have the runway to hire like the engineers and to develop the drug, right? But then it gets like to the stage of getting it approved, right? So how do you get it like through the often very complicated FDA approval process, right? So this is something very specific for this industry, right? But it could also be something completely different, right? Of course, like companies who are building something in any industry, really, they have a vested interest that like certain votes in parliament, let's say, go in a certain direction, right? It's extremely important for them, right? If they develop a drug and then it doesn't get approval, they wasted like billions, right? Like, this is not great. So I think in the blockchain industry, this is still a bit of a newish trend, but I think it's going to be one that is more and more important, right? And just to make it a bit more concrete here, right? For certain parachains that are developing on top of Polkadot, certain things are going to be particularly important, right? I mean, there are two obvious examples, right? One is treasury proposals, right? Of course, if they're proposing something to get funded for, they have a very clearly like vested interest in having that pass, right? So that's kind of one thing, that seems very direct, and it actually is very direct. But then there are also like more abstract things, right? That, for example, certain upgrades to the code base are being made in Polkadot, right? Something that is very technical, of course, but that benefits like a certain project because they need it. And then if they really want to get that passed, right, because it really is important to their business model, then, a VC who is already invested in those projects and who also happens to hold DOT, right, and can actively engage in in the governance, right, has on the one hand side incentive, but on the other hand side also a responsibility to help them, to support them. And maybe one last thought about this. It's not just about like your own votes, right? It's also about sort of whipping up votes, if you want to use like a funny term, right? Like whipping up, like sort of finding a consortium or however you want to call it, like a syndicate, right? Where people are voting together, voting in a block. I think this is a really big value add, like from the perspective of a VC to help like one of their portfolio companies.
Yeah, really interesting and really Polkadot focused as well there. I appreciate that. Joanna?
Yeah, as Max already mentioned, so because crypto industry is still a newish trend and an emerging industry, so I think actually both projects and VC firms should be versatile to some extent because the whole industry is not set into a specific order so far. So, but in terms of the positioning part, I think projects should be more focused on the business. They should take over the whole business part. And for our VC firms, we need to be like we need to be able to be capable of tackling everything except for the business part. So let's give some example about this. Like if you want to expand presence in a certain region, we need to like give them some regional connections, and we need to help them for talent acquisition because we are more familiar with this space. Besides this, maybe also in terms of the later stage of the projects, if you want some market making solutions, and because we've dealt with so many like market makers in this space so far, so we can help the projects identify which is the right partner to cooperate with, and this is the same case with listing. So I think these are some of the very practical things that VC firms should help with the projects.
And James?
Yeah, I think it depends on the market, right? If it's in a bear market like this, I mean, it's all about survival. So I guess the fund is actually the cash is one of the important things, right? If you're running out of cash, then that's a huge problem. I think we decide to save a few business already to provide bridge funding. As long as the project is good enough, so I think worth saving, then I'm going to save it. And of course, I will also introduce other VCs, what I think about these VCs are good VCs to invest as well. So I think in the bear market, it's all about survival. And if you are good enough, if you already have good, tractions, anything, just, have a good, angle for the VC to survive, to support, then we were probably going to save it. So that's the bear market strategy. In the bull market, I mean, value add is more about, just like JOANNA and other one says, it's about, tons of resources we can give in our networking, all these kind of marketing, listing, whatever things that is, we're going to support and give to the project. So in the bull market, the strategy I would say is more about growth, and in the bear market, it's more about the survival. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that distinction between the two market cycles. Just want to confirm, Harold, we have about 15 minutes left? 5 minutes left. Okay, so we have to move along. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can get through two more very, very quick ones at the end, but this is the key question for the panel here. What do you look for in a founder or a startup? Do you look primarily at the founder as well, or is it the business model? Is it a combination, starting with Christoph?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I mean, in the end, everyone says we're looking for the founders, and that's the most important thing. Of course, I mean, what you shouldn't forget, it depends also on the stage where you invest. Yeah, if it's a seed or pre-seed or a stage, then usually the whole project pivots like 3-4 times in the first 2 years anyway. So if the founders are strong, that could work. Yeah, if the founders are weak and you have a good project, but they have to pivot, but then they have a fallout, then you have a problem. Yeah. So I mean, look, the thing is, I come from a traditional asset management business. Yeah. So I mean, the things they were done in the end, you have to look the guys in the eye and say, do I want to work with them? Because in the end, I know that Gavin always says less trust, more truth, but how do you know what's the truth in a founder? So if you don't trust them to make that happen, then I think you will have a problem. Yeah. So what we're currently looking for is user adoption. We like projects which bring users to the space, because all our portfolio companies profit from that. Yeah. It's like we spoke briefly before that we put a large chunk of our fund into mythical gaming, which has millions of users. I mean, as one, why we did that was because we think gaming will be the killer app for the space, because you will have most of the users there. And second of all, of course, I mean, what you said before is like you have the network effect of the portfolio. All our portfolio companies could profit from a bunch of users coming into the space, and you need digital identity. Maybe you need some music thing. Maybe you need some streaming across that. And I think that's what you need to do. I mean, we do very few investments. We have 15 portfolio companies, so it's not a lot. So we write large checks because, I mean, you need to be prepared to go 2-3 years now. And what you mentioned before, also, you need to have you can have the best technical founder if you don't have a sales guy there who brings in user and revenues. It's like the VHS and Betamax story. You can have the best technology, but if you can't get the adoption, you're dead. Yeah. So that's what we're looking for.
Sega.
Yeah, same. I will keep it very short. So domain know-how. Founders should know what they're building. So basically, like they should have like at least skin in the game. Basically, like they did something in previously, like something random guy will come and say like, hey, I'm gonna solve like a typical pharmacy industry problem. We're not gonna invest. He should or she should have a domain know-how. Personalities are very important for us, like as a team. What is the team dynamic looks like, and what they're building? Do we have the market there, pre-product market fit, or pre-product market fit revenue, sort of like a small revenue generation? We would like to talk to their potential clients or potential customers who will pay them, and of course the geographical location based on what they're building. If they're building something unique for Europe, they should be in Europe, not in Asia, or either way, vice versa, right? So for us, that's important. As Christoph said, like we are pre-seeded seed stage startups investors. So for us, important is like who is going to build that. And you have like a 12 to 18 months of runway where this is the startup death valley zone where most of the startup fails. They don't even make it to the late seed or Series A round. So we always like focusing on the founders, but for us important is also like what they're building.
Yeah, I probably don't have a very unique opinion on this either. Yeah, obviously the person matters, right? Like I think nobody would discuss with that, right? If it's a great idea, but like the person clearly that does not have the ability to pull it off, then it's just not going to work out, right? Because it does take a lot of dedication and skills and the right attitude, so to speak, to make something happen, any kind of startup. But then again, so yes, founder is important, but we also like to think about it sort of very much from like a business model, right? If it's something that it already exists, or it's like a copy of something, like okay, like it's much harder to like justify why you want to still go with them, even if it's like a brilliant founder, right? but like their idea is something, yeah, that already exists. It's like a copy. It's like yet another something, right? So that's not so interesting. But then on the other hand, like especially in this stage, right, where we are right now, like, you know, we get like a pretty good feeling for like, oh, that's like a great business model, right? Of course, can they pull it off? It's a different question. So, you know, it's not an either or. You always need both a good founder and a good model.
Yeah, I think this varies from like different types of projects. Like for layer 1 protocols or infrastructure or middle layer projects, this type of projects require more technical background, and we need to dive very deep into the underlying technology, and whether it will work out in the end. But for application level, this is more inclined to mass adoption applications. So in terms of this kind of projects, I think the verticals and areas matters the most. And like Max has mentioned, what kind of problems you're trying to tackle, trying to solve, and what the business model you have set up. And but for all these projects, all this type of projects, people are one of the biggest thing that we will focus a lot about.
Yeah, I think if the founder is given wood, then you will invest directly, right? So, but the reality is most of the founders are not given wood. So it's actually, it's very hard for, founder these days to have a super good track record in the crypto industry. So most people founder don't have lot of years of experience in the industry. So, so it's hard to really tell whether the founder is good or not unless you do super deep due diligence. So I think this is the trick here. Everyone can say that, okay, we need the founder to be good enough, but the reality is how would VC knows about it, right? So this is really the hard problem here. But of course, we need good founders. I think the business model is more direct and straightforward. We would definitely need a good business model. I think one thing I don't like a lot is copy, one business model and reuse it into the other layer 1 protocol ecosystem. I think that's just a simple waste of time. It's not going to work. So, I mean, the business model for the project has to be very innovative. You have to be still solve the real problem of the maybe not too much, maybe just solve 1 or 2 specific problem in this ecosystem. That should be good enough. So I guess, what we view this is, you probably need to, if you are a founder, then you probably still need to come up with some, good kind of business model. Then after that, you probably will get enough fund.
All right. Well, thanks so much, James. And to the rest of the panel, unfortunately, we are now at our time. I think that was incredibly insightful. And to the audience, I'd encourage you to go check all of these VCs out on Twitter. You can find them simply by going to Paris.com's Twitter handle, and they have been mentioned around this panel. If you can't find the actual personality themselves, then you can find their fund as well, which is on Twitter and active there. So to all of you, my panelists, Christoph, Sagar, Max, Joanna, and James, thank you so much for your time and your insights and for what you're doing for the industry. Thank you. Please, a big round of applause for our VC panel.
Thank you, Jim.
Great.